other side.
I am Elena Carter, a legal specialist at Arctic Inc., a pharmaceutical titan in the heart of Boston's bustling financial district. For years, I poured every ounce of my energy, intellect, and heart into this company, believing that dedication and integrity would pave my way to the top. I was meticulous, relentless, and fiercely committed to ensuring Arctic's compliance with the labyrinthine regulations of the pharmaceutical world. I thought my work spoke for itself. I thought it was enough. I was wrong. This is the story of how I uncovered a tangled web of deceit, fought against a toxic corporate culture, and clawed my way to the justice I deserved. It's a story of betrayal, redemption, and the quiet power of truth. It began with a single email that shattered my world and set me on a path I never could have imagined. It was a chilly October morning, the kind where the Boston air bites at your fingertips and the city hums with the promise of winter. I sat at my desk in Arctic's sleek, glass-walled office, sipping coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. My inbox pinged, and I opened an email with the subject line, "Leadership Promotions. Congratulations to our new directors." My heart leapt. This was at the moment I had been working toward for 3 years. I had been the backbone of Arctic's legal compliance team, spearheading projects that saved the company from multi-million-dollar lawsuits and ensure our clinical trials met the FDA's stringent standards. I had stayed late, drafted policies under impossible deadlines, and navigated the complexities of international regulations for our European expansion. My colleagues leaned on me. My supervisors praised me, and I was certain my name would be on that list. I clicked the email, my eyes scanning the names, and then, like a punch to the chest, I saw it. Savannah Brooks, Director of Compliance. Savannah Brooks. The name wasn't just a professional slight, it was a ghost from my past. A specter of cruelty from my high school years in a small Massachusetts town. Savannah had been the queen bee of our school. Her sharp tongue and calculated pranks, her daily torment. She had mocked my thrift-store clothes, spread rumors that cut deeper than I cared to admit, and made my teenage years a battlefield. I had left that town and Savannah behind. Or so I thought. But here she was, not just in my company, but in my role. The one I had earned 3 years of sacrifice. I leaned back in my chair, the office's fluorescent lights suddenly too bright. Savannah had joined Arctic only 6 months ago, a lateral hire from a rival firm. She was charming, polished, with a smile that could disarm anyone. But competent, hardly. She had barely touched a regulatory document, preferring to glide through meetings with vague buzzwords and stolen credit. Yet somehow, she had leapfrogged me into the Director of Compliance role. Anger simmered in my veins, but I wasn't the type to storm into someone's office and demand answers. I needed to be strategic. I needed to understand how this had happened. I started with Raymond Graham, the head of our department and the man who held the keys to promotions. Raymond was in his 50s, with a penchant for tailored suits and an air of untouchability. His office, a glass-walled fortress on the 20th floor, was a shrine to his ego. Awards lined the walls, and his desk was always suspiciously free of clutter. I knocked on his door that afternoon, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "Eleanor, good to see you," he said, barely looking up from his laptop. "What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "The promotion list. I'd like to understand why I wasn't considered for Director of Compliance." Raymond's eyes flicked up, his expression unreadable. "It was a tough decision, Elena. Savannah has shown exceptional leadership potential. The board felt she was the right fit." "Leadership potential," I pressed, keeping my tone professional but firm. "I've led every major compliance project this year. The FDA audit, the European expansion, those were my initiatives. I've been here 3 years." "Raymond, Savannah's been here 6 months." He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "You're invaluable, Elena, truly. But Savannah brings a fresh perspective. Keep up the good work, and I'm sure your time will come." His words were hollow, a rehearsed dodge. I left his office, my mind racing, a fresh perspective. That was corporate speak for favoritism. I had seen Savannah in action, her charm offensive with executives, her knack for taking credit for others' work, her overly familiar smiles with Raymond. There was something more at play, and I was determined to find out what. That night, in my cozy back bay loft, I couldn't sleep. The city's lights glittered through my window, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying every interaction with Savannah. Then a memory surfaced, sharp and painful. Senior year of high school, I had applied for a prestigious scholarship to Harvard, my essay. A raw and deeply personal piece about my mother's battle with cancer had been my ticket out of our small town. I had poured my soul into it, spending weeks perfecting every sentence. But it had vanished from the school's submission portal, and I was disqualified. Savannah had won the scholarship instead. Her essay lauded as exceptional. I had always suspected her involvement, but I could never prove it. Could she have manipulated her way into this promotion too? The parallel was too striking to ignore. I needed evidence, and I needed it fast. The next morning, I became a detective in my own workplace. I started with Raymond, observing his interactions with Savannah. They were subtle but telling, lingering glances, private check-ins in the break room, his hand brushing her shoulder a little too often. It wasn't just professional favoritism, it was personal. Then, one evening, I saw them together at a bar in the Seaport district. They were tucked in a dimly lit corner, their heads bent close, his hand resting on hers. It was a relationship, and it explained everything. I didn't have concrete proof yet, but I knew how to get it. Over the next week, I discreetly installed a small, motion-activated camera in the break room where Raymond and Savannah often met. It was a risky move. Arctic had strict policies on surveillance, but I was careful, ensuring the device was hidden in a stack of coffee filters. I also started carrying a voice recorder in my bag, capturing snippets of their conversations when I could get close enough without rousing suspicion. The footage and recordings were damning. Raymond promised Savannah security in her role, whispered about keeping things quiet, and even mentioned a weekend getaway. It was unethical, a clear violation of Arctic's code of conduct. But it wasn't enough to bring them down. I needed something that would expose Savannah's incompetence and Raymond's complicity on a larger scale. The opportunity came at Arctic's annual gala, a lavish affair at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. The ballroom was a sea of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos, the air thick with champagne and ambition. I wore a sleek black dress, my hair pulled back, blending into the crowd. Savannah was there, radiant in a crimson gown, clinging to Raymond's arm like a trophy. I watched from a distance, nursing a glass of champagne, waiting for a crack in her armor. It came during dessert, when Savannah, emboldened by too much wine, cornered me near the bar. "Elena, darling," she purred, her voice dripping with condescension. "You look professional." Still grinding away in the legal trenches, I forced a smile, my pulse quickening. "Just doing my part. Congratulations on the promotion. By the way," her eyes glinted with something cruel, the same malice I remembered from high school. "Oh, Elena, don't take it personally. Some people are just better suited for the spotlight." She leaned closer, her breath warm with alcohol. "Like that scholarship back in high school. You really thought you had a shot." My blood ran cold. "What did you do, Savannah?" She laughed, a sharp, careless sound. "Let's just say your essay wasn't as secure as you thought. Portals can be so glitchy." I excused myself, my heart pounding. She had admitted it. Savannah had sabotaged my scholarship application, costing me a chance at Harvard. It wasn't just a teenage prank, it was a calculated act that had altered the course of my life. But a drunken confession wasn't enough. I needed proof, something tangible to tie her to that betrayal. The next day, I tracked down Professor Linden, my high school English teacher who had overseen the scholarship applications. He was retired now, living in a quiet suburb outside Boston. I drove to his modest Cape Cod-style home, where he welcomed me with a warm smile and a pot of coffee. "Elena, It's been years, he said, his eyes crinkling. What brings you here? I explained everything, the scholarship, Savannah's confession, my suspicions. His face darkened as he listened. I always felt terrible about that scholarship, he said. Stirring his coffee, your essay was brilliant, one of the best I'd ever read. But the system showed it was never submitted. I checked the logs back then, and there was an unauthorized login from a student account. I couldn't prove it was Savannah. But could you check again? I asked, my voice urgent, or point me to someone who can. He hesitated, then nodded. The university might still have the server logs. I'll make some calls. A week later, Professor Linding called me with a bombshell. The university's IT department had dug into their archives and found evidence that Savannah's account had accessed the submission portal, the NIG. My essay disappeared. More damning, they analyzed her scholarship essay and discovered passages lifted verbatim from an obscure medical journal, a clear case of plagiarism. The university opened an academic investigation, but I knew it would take months to resolve. I needed to act faster. At Arctic, back at the office, I began talking to colleagues Savannah had wronged. There was Mir, a junior analyst who had been demoted after Savannah blamed her for a botched presentation that was actually Savannah's fault. There was Carlos, a project manager whose innovative compliance framework Savannah had stolen and passed off as her own. And then there was Jordan Kim, an IT specialist who had been fired after Savannah accused him of incompetence during a system upgrade she had mismanaged. I met Jordan at a diner in Somerville, a no-nonsense spot with sticky tables and strong coffee. He was in his late 20s, with a quick wit and a chip on his shoulder. Savannah wanted me gone because I saw her tweaking data in the public health project, he said, his voice low. She was fudging numbers to make the drug trials look cleaner than they were. It was dangerous. My pulse quickened. Do you have proof? Jordan grinned, sliding a USB drive across the table. I kept backups. Always do. The drive contained a treasure trove. Emails where Savannah instructed subordinates to alter data, spreadsheets with falsified trial results, and metadata showing her login credentials. She had manipulated data on a critical public health project, potentially endangering lives to boost her reputation and secure her promotion. I knew I couldn't take this to Raymond. He was too entangled with Savannah. Instead, I decided to go public. But anonymously, I started a blog called Inside Arctic Inc., using a pseudonym to protect my identity. My first post detailed the toxic culture in our department, favoritism, stolen credit, and suppressed complaints. I anonymized the details, but made it clear that leadership was failing us. The blog gained traction almost immediately, with employees leaving comments about their own experiences. It was a small rebellion, but it was growing. I also reached out to Marisi, a pseudonym for a local investigative reporter known for exposing corporate corruption. I sent her a dossier, the camera footage of Raymond and Savannah, the voice recordings, Jordan's data, and details of Savannah's high school plagiarism. Marie was cautious, but intrigued. This could be big. She wrote back, keep me posted. The turning point came at Arctic's annual Leadership Awards, a glittering event meant to celebrate excellence. Savannah was set to receive a Rising Star plaque, a public coronation of her meteoric rise. I couldn't let that happen. The day before the ceremony, I submitted a formal complaint to the board, attaching every piece of evidence I had, the recordings, the data fraud, the plagiarism report. I signed it as a concerned employee. The ceremony was a disaster for Savannah. As she stepped onto the stage, smiling for the cameras, the CEO interrupted with a tight smile. We're experiencing a brief delay in this award presentation, he said, his voice clipped. Whispers rippled through the crowd. By the next morning, Savannah was suspended pending an internal investigation. Raymond was called into a closed-door meeting with HR. His face pale as he left. Savannah didn't go. Quietly, she suspected me and tried to retaliate, accusing me of misallocating funds on a minor expense report. It was a desperate move. easily disproven by my meticulous records. I had anticipated her tactics and kept detailed logs of every transaction. Her accusation fell apart within hours. I countered with a final blow. Jordan had uncovered emails showing Savannah had signed a contract with a shell company linked to money laundering, a deal she had pushed through under Raymond's nose, likely to curry favor with a shady client. I sent the evidence to the board and to Maurice, who published a scathing expose in the Boston Globe. The board acted swiftly. Raymond was forced to resign for violating ethical standards. His career in ruins, Savannah tried to submit her resignation to avoid the investigation, but Jordan's data ensured she couldn't escape. The shell company scandal was the final nail in her coffin. She was fired, her reputation in tatters, and the university revoked her degree after confirming the plagiarism. 2 weeks later, I sat in a boardroom, facing the CEO and the head of HR. They offered me the role of Director of Compliance. "You've shown exceptional integrity, Elena," the CEO said. "We need someone like you to rebuild trust in this department." I accepted, my heart swelling with a quiet pride. That evening, I moved into my new office, a corner suite with a view of the Charles River. The city sparkled below, a reminder of how far I had come. I opened my journal and wrote, "Justice doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true." Savannah left Arctic in silence, her belongings packed in a single box. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth had done its work. The months that followed were a whirlwind. As Director of Compliance, I overhauled our department's policies, rooting out favoritism and creating channels for anonymous reporting. I brought Jordan back as a consultant, and together we implemented a new data security protocol to prevent future fraud. The blog, Inside Arctic Inc., quietly went offline. Its purpose served. But this wasn't just about a promotion. It was about standing up to a system that rewarded deceit and punished loyalty. It was about proving that truth, no matter how buried, could rise to the surface, and rise it did. I often think about that scholarship, the one Savannah stole from me. It stung, but it also shaped me. It taught me resilience, the value of evidence, and the power of persistence. In the end, I didn't just get a promotion, I reclaimed my dignity, my voice, and my place in a world that tried to silence me. This is my story, and it's only the beginning.